All right, welcome, boys and girls, children of all ages, to another exciting episode, post-draft edition of Under the Dome. We have, once again, which is always fun with Google Hangouts, we have technical difficulties trying to get our guest on tonight, Mr. Barry Hirstius. But we will continue to try. In the meantime, Sean did me a favor. Sean picked the theme for tonight. We're going to play the first 10, 15 seconds of this so you can actually do that legally. You know, I apologize about the crappy sound coming from my computer speakers. You know, I don't have the regular stereo speakers set up, but, you know, hang on here. We got the voice of God coming up. Sing it, Peter. I tell you what, if there was somebody I could wish I could sing like, there's two people. Peter Cetera is one of them. Steve Perry's another. And we'll throw a third person in there. We'll throw Dennis DeYoung from Styx.
Oh,
a third. Those are like those voices for me, you know, because my voice sounds like, you know, garbage. But those
people always ask me, they say, you played back in the day? I said, yeah. They say, what were you? And I said, I was the lead vocalist. You could sing? I said, well, that generally depends on who you ask.
Depends on how much beer somebody had.
Well, yeah, I have more than once referred to myself as a Top Fuel vocalist. And people didn't always get that, but, you know, oh, well.
Well, you know, I always tell people, if you ever catch me up there karaoke, you better call Guinness because the world's drunkest man is on stage right now. I'm pretty sure my vocal abilities violate some aspect of the Geneva Convention. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started talking a little bit about the draft and what happened Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I did predict that we were going to make a trade up, but I did not predict that we would make a trade up for Marcus Davenport. That was a surprise, but I was not surprised we made the trade.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I know Alan, probably much the same as me. I'm sitting in my living room, sitting there watching the draft with my son, and they said, "Oh my God, news! The New Orleans Saints have traded up to number 14." I reached down and I got the trusty old mixed drink that was as we were talking about earlier, Top Fuel. And I thought, here comes Lamar Jackson. He is about to become a New Orleans Saint.
I was losing my mind.
I turned her up, and my son and his buddy are sitting there going, "Man, we're fixing to draft Lamar Jackson." I'm like, "Shut up! I don't want to hear it." When do we pick again? But luckily, the call came in. And we're going to get a little bit more into this in a little bit. But as far in terms of the Marcus Davenport pick. But suffice it to say, we have company.
Yes, Mr. we do.
Hirstius, are you among the living?
Hello.
Hey, Barry, you're on.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, look, apparently I couldn't get, I was trying to get through the Google Hangouts through my phone, and it wouldn't allow me to do it. So I jumped on the laptop, and lo and behold, here I am. So apparently I can't get it. I can't activate it through my phone. So, but that's okay. I'm on the laptop, and we're good.
I got you. Well, Barry, we just started talking about the draft and the big move in the first round with the trade up to Marcus Davenport. And, you know, I've been saying for a while, I predicted that the Saints were going to make a trade up. They were not going to stay at 27. I thought it would be for a quarterback, and the quarterback I thought the Saints were going to trade up for actually went number 1 overall. So that kind of killed that one. And you know, I watched NFL Network coverage of the draft, and here they get into this whole thing on Lamar Jackson. The Saints are trading up for Lamar Jackson. It's, you know, Sean Payton's got a vision, and he thinks he knows exactly how he would use Lamar Jackson. And I was just losing my mind because of what we gave up.
It wasn't just the Saints. It was every pick beyond, like, number 3. They're making a move. I think that and when they announced that the Saints had moved up to number 14, I honest to God, I heard someone say, "New Orleans, are you ready for Lamar Jackson?" And I was like, oh, my God, I don't have enough to drink for this tonight.
But instead they went to Marcus Davenport. So, Barry, let us know. Give us your impression of Marcus Davenport. What do you think of the move?
I like the move. Now, look, there's 2 aspects to the move. There's what they gave up to get him, and then there's the player himself, the pick itself. So let's look at both. Now, what they gave up, obviously, you know, you could look at it and say that was a little steep. I mean, you're talking about, and here's the scenario I laid out when I did the show this morning with Alan Michael on Lafayette radio, which is, let's suppose, now I'm not trying to put the kibosh on them. Let me put that out there now so I don't get a message from 100 people telling me, oh, you picked the Saints to have a losing season. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, let's suppose, what if the Saints go 7-9? Look, God forbid that, you know, Breeze gets hurt or you lose Michael Thomas or just whatever. Worst case scenario, you finish 7-9. Mm-hmm. Well, all of a sudden, you would like to have a first-round draft pick next year, wouldn't you? You know, so then you go, you know, you're not going to be picking the mid-second, maybe even late second round next year. So just, you know, that is a steep price to pay. Now let's look at the player. The player is potentially what you're probably going to say is an elite talent. So, you know, if he's an elite talent, if you're getting the next DeMarcus Ware to put on the opposite side of Cam Jordan, wow. You know, so there's 2 sides to the coin. There's 2 ways to look at it. I think if you realistically, if this guy comes in and gets 8 or 9 sacks. Wow, something's pretty funny going on over there by Sean.
Yeah, I don't know what Sean's looking at.
Sorry about that.
It's something. Well, hopefully after the show he'll share that. He'll share that with us.
There you go.
It's pretty funny to make him laugh like that. But look, realistically, here's the deal. If you're thinking that this guy is going to come in and set the NFL record for rookies for sacks in a season, I just don't think that's a realistic expectation to put on the kid. So look, he might do it. I hope he does. That'd be fantastic. But if he, you know, I think realistically, they'll probably break him in slowly. They'll bring him along slowly. He'll be part of that NASCAR package, you know, on the opposite side of Jordan. Probably share time with Kikaha and Hendrickson kid, you know, and maybe even, you know, I don't know, George Johnson, the veteran, will stick around or not, but he might even make it to camp with all this young talent they suddenly have now at the edge or at defensive end. So, look, if the kid gets 8 or 9 sacks, to me, that's phenomenal. Yeah, you know, that's realistic expectation for a rookie year, but long term, I mean, what's Cam? 28, 29 now, I think. So, long term, you're going to get Cam and Davenport for about a good 4 or 5 years together, maybe. So that window that you always hear about with Drew Brees, I think realistically, if the kid winds up being a star, you know, a superstar caliber player, you're looking at getting a good 2, maybe even 3, if you're lucky. Seasons with Breeze still at the helm, and make a run in the Super Bowl. So I saw the argument right before we came on air, right before I got on the air with you guys. I was reading a thread on Twitter with Nick Underhill, where the argument was, you can't argue that you're trying to win now, but then say we're investing in a guy for the future, but it's going to take a few years to pan out. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say you're being patient and you're going to bring in this kid that's a project player and wait for 3 years to pan out, but still make the argument that we're trying to win now. So, there's that fine line that you're walking between, quote unquote, winning now and building for the future. So, the argument to be made. Yeah. And look, and it's a great debate. It's a great argument. Bottom line is this team look, last year before the season started, Alan, we thought they were going to go 7-9 again. We didn't think they were going to get 11-5. Honestly, did either of you think they were going to go 11-5 and win the division last year? I sure did. I thought they would win 10 games.
Sean got the closest. Sean actually was the believer. He got the closest in our prediction last year. He actually had them win the division.
I have video evidence that I was a true believer. But I get your point, Barry. When the team started 0-2, 7-9 was a lofty expectation for most people that follow this team. Now, I think that you made a very valid point about the Marcus Davenport pick being a two-sided coin. I think that's very relevant in this situation, and the debate on that will not subside probably anytime in the near future, because a year from now we're going to be just like this year we were debating how smart that move was to move up and trade that second round pick to get Alvin Kamara. A year from now, we're going to be debating whether or not Marcus Davenport was worth losing that first round pick. And you made an analogy, which I completely agree with. I've done several interviews over the course of this week about reaction to the draft, and people have asked me what I thought of the Marcus Davenport pick, and I said, well, basically it comes down to this. You're either going to see the next Trey Hendrickson, who also came from a small school in Florida Atlantic, or you're going to see the next DeMarcus Ware, who also came out of that league as well. The guy has that much potential.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I don't know if you guys caught that article by Stephen White of SB Nation. He's a former defensive end for Tampa. If you guys caught my article, I actually linked his article in mine and put a few direct quotes from the article itself. Did the old Alan can appreciate the old Bob Rossler Talented Immune style thing where I put the quotes and stuff. Little trick from the old school there, but man, now if his assessment is accurate, and I actually titled the article just to drive the point home, if the assessment is accurate, man, look, he even thinks that the kid is as good as Bradley Chubb. I mean, and Bradley Chubb obviously went pick number 5 to Denver and is obviously considered the elite pass rush talent of this class. Well, Stephen White's played, like I said, former NFL defensive lineman. I respect his opinion. Maybe he's hyping it up a little bit. I mean, he does write for SB Nation, so he's got to get some clicks too. Okay, so let's not even sell it short and say that his analysis is just. He was so blown away by the kid's film. Yeah, maybe he was blown away by the kid's film, and if you watch the film, look, he's very impressive. But let's not lose sight of the fact that Stephen White has to get clicks for SB Nation too. So look, you guys know I'm gonna give it to you cut and dry. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it at all. So,
well, let me ask you this, Barry.
You know, so.
Let me ask you this, Barry. I in my analysis, I had, as far as as far as edge rushers go, I had Davenport listed second by a very, very slight margin behind Harold Landry, with the caveat that Harold Landry probably at Boston College saw a little bit more of what would be considered an elite level offensive line competition than what Davenport saw at UTSA. But at the same time, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that Davenport was more along the lines of a traditional, for lack of a better analogy, a Reggie White real defensive end, whereas Harold Landry, I would put more along the lines of a Pat Swilling outside linebacker that rushes the passer. Do you think that's an accurate assessment?
Yes, definitely. I think the difference between the two is that, you know, and that was the reason why I personally fell in love with Harold Landry, because look, my friend Mike Detillier, who we all know, he's the one who got me hyped up on Harold Landry, because he was the one that made the Pat Swilling analogy, and man, that's all I had to hear, and I was totally smitten with him. And I honestly, when they said this New Orleans is traded up, I completely forgot about Davenport being there. So when they said that, I thought, it's Harold Landry. I'm getting Harold Landry. I love it. And so then
when they announced the move to number 14,
you thought it was Lamar, huh?
Alan and I were just talking about this. I thought it was either a tight end, insert your own Goddard, Andrews, whoever.
Goddard, yeah.
Or
Goddard.
Harold Landry or Lamar Jackson. And knowing that my head coach is Sean Payton, I said, oh my God, it's time to drink.
Well, you know, here's the thing too. All those guys on NFL Network, ESPN, anybody's covering the draft, they've got insiders who are dropping these things and pushing these cards on these people on the air.
Yes.
That's how they kind of know what pick is coming up. So that really is an insult to their so-called insiders. They got burned that badly that they thought, because they were all preparing the Lamar Jackson highlights and talking about how he's going to be effective. You know, I think even what you call it, the host, I can't think of his name right now, who used to be on ESPN, Rich Eisen, was even saying things like, imagine Lamar Jackson in the same backfield with Alvin Kamara. You know, that's just going to be unbelievable. And and they go, all we know about is Davenport. You know, and so
cricket.
Yeah,
cricket.
I was so geared up to go, oh my God, no, we can't do this. And it's because this is not a knock on Lamar Jackson, but this is you were giving up 2 first-rounders for a guy who was going to play for 2 to 3 years. And that's what really was setting me off, that we going to give up that much to move up to get a quarterback and not
it would have been illogical. And look, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Alan, but here's the only quarterback that I thought, obviously Mayfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But,
that was
went down the wrong way, huh?
Look,
I got a whole pot of coffee I'm drinking, so I can relate. But when Rosen fell, I thought, and this is just my thought, was that with the Bears sitting there at 8 and Ryan Pace, I was convinced that Sean Payton might go get Josh Rosen, because nobody was mentioning Rosen to the Saints, and I thought if Rosen got to 8, Sean might jump on it, and the opportunity was there, but the Bears were not going to move off of Roquan Smith. there was no way they were going to move off of Roquan. So if Roquan Smith's not there, I wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have shocked me if the Saints would have went for Rosen at that point. But I just don't think. You heard him. He said Sam Darnold was the only one he was impressed with. Was he telling the truth? Who knows? But bottom line is, what I like about this organization, and even though I criticize some of their picks, but that's my job, and you know I'm always going to find fault with something because I'm just a pessimist. If you guys never notice anything about my work, I'm just a pessimist in general. So I always look at the glass.
You're making that up.
Glass half empty.
Well, you know,
you're making that up.
Here, you know, and let's kind of wrap up.
Yeah, I always try to play the devil.
Yeah,
I always try to play the devil's advocate.
That's
because you can't be a homer.
No, you can't.
Just cannot be a homer. I got in a little thing on Twitter over the weekend. Alan saw it. I don't know if you saw it, Sean. And I love yanking the chain of Saints fans. They don't understand. They get so mad. I intentionally say and do things with the intention of getting people riled up, just because I love seeing the reaction of it. But what irks me to death beyond and I'm sure a bunch of people watching this show tonight is going to be mad at me for saying it, but it just irks me. You cannot look. I'm as Alan knows, New Orleans native. Grew up a Saints fan. Went to the games at Tulane Stadium as a little kid. My papa took me to the first Saints game I ever went to, 1973, and you know, so I love this team. So never, ever think when I criticize the Saints that I'm a hater or all these crazy stuff that some over the top, little maybe too passionate fans get carried away with their love and be devoted and passionate for the team. But you got to be willing to accept criticism. You know, hey, that's right. Part of life. And it's my job. And my job is to criticize and point out things that I think. But look, when they do good, I'm going to praise them. I'm certainly going to praise them. When they look, last year they knocked it out the park, buddy. They knocked it out the park. And if Marcus Williams doesn't miss that tackle, I tell you what, the Saints go into I almost said Veterans Stadium. the Saints go into Lincoln Financial Field and give those guys a run for their money. So
a lot more than the Vikings did. A lot more than Vikings.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
Absolutely.
It's been 13 years now. Buddy D passed away in 2005, before Katrina. A lot of people don't remember Buddy D, or never heard Buddy D, and how he was, you know, the constant critic of the franchise, but he also loved the franchise. So, you know, you can say your Buddy D's cool. And Hap Glotty too. Hey, Hap Glotty.
They hated. You remember when we were kids? They hated Hap Glotty because he was critical. But what did Hap always say? Tell it like it is. I tell it like it is, and if you don't like it, change the station. That's what he would tell you. But that's why people loved him, because he spoke the truth. And you know, you and Alan, we're the same age. I mean, and Sean's our age pretty much. But you know, that generation. You know, and my papa same. Look, my papa used to go down to the New Orleans Fairgrounds and the Jefferson Downs and hang out with Hap Glotty and Buddy D. Those guys, look, Alan, you know those guys, both Hap and Buddy D used to hang out at the track. They lived at the track. Matter of fact, Buddy's son, Mike Diliberto, still works at the fairgrounds, I believe, if I'm
he does.
Correct. So
he does.
Yes. So you know, my papa was down there with his Optimo cigars, trying to get the inside scoop, because trying to probably lose my him and my grandma's house, putting the house up for the mortgage on the house for on the number 5 exacta at the fairground. So but that is an older generation of love for football, and that's what I was brought up in, and that's the style I am. I'm going to say how I feel, and look, again, when they do good, I'm going to praise them. And this organization, I like their strategy, or I don't know if strategy is the right word. Their attitude or their approach to the draft.
They've got a mentality.
They always think outside the box.
Yeah,
they always think outside the box. They don't conform to the norm. They don't do what NFL.com thinks they should do. They don't do what WWL thinks they should do. They're going to do what they want to do. Right. And this draft was a perfect example of that, because almost every single pick, maybe with the exception of the Will Clapp pick, which was a no-brainer to me. That the kid I couldn't believe he was still there in the 7th round. What a steal!
Sure,
but I mean, and let's get into this, Alan, because this is perfect. Because I saw you guys sent me the talking points. So let's just dive right into it, because I've been waiting to talk about this all night. Let's talk about the Rick Leonard pick.
Well, we're gonna get into that all night. Okay. We're gonna get into that because we definitely when you talk about thinking outside the box, I want to I talked a little bit about this in the little column I wrote up about the draft, but we'll talk about all of that stuff.
Which I saw, fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Sean. You wanted to pay the bills though, real quick, don't you?
Yeah, we might need to. I would hate for our broadcast to freeze, and I got a point. Anyway, we want to thank Fan First Productions for being our sponsor. We want to invite everyone to subscribe to our show on iTunes, on YouTube, and on Facebook at Under the Dome PO1 on Twitter, and Under the Dome podcast on Facebook. Thank you guys so much for being a part of what we do. We live to serve you guys. And now that we're halfway through the show, I'd like to introduce our very special guest tonight. from Saints News Network, our friend, Mr. Barry Hirstius. Barry, did I leave anything out in your intro, brother?
No, and I'm sorry. Again, people were probably tuning in and saying, "Wait, why did you go back to the intro?" But because I couldn't figure out how to work Google Hangouts. Look, I'm almost 51 years old, and I'm still not tech savvy. I have a 6-year-old, fixed to be 7-year-old granddaughter that I'm raising that lives here at the house, and she's more tech savvy than I am. She can come in here and run this laptop better than I can. So. I'm surprised I could even get out. I'm surprised I could even get out an article in the morning. I'm kidding, of course, but anyway,
you are not alone, brother. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I'll be sitting here going, "I can't do this," and she said, "Why don't you try this?" And she comes in, press one button, and it's like, "Go play."
Yeah. Well, so there's nothing worse to your ego when a 7-year-old granddaughter comes in and in one simple motion makes me look like a complete idiot. So
there you go.
I feel your pain.
Before we get any further,
I appreciate you guys having me on, and I love you guys. I try to catch the show as often as I can. I know it's been a while.
Before we get any further into the program. I'm sorry. The video delay is messing with me, Barry. I'm not cutting you off, brother.
Driving you nuts, huh?
Before we get any further into the program, I want to wish a very special happy birthday wish to one of our guys, Mr. Tyler Raymond. Today is his 21st birthday, and he sent me a picture on Facebook Messenger today, and there was 2 empty beer bottles. I think he borrowed them from someone to take the picture. But very happy birthday, Tyler. And also
somebody else.
Well, you guys bear with me.
I was just going to say, I remember vaguely being 21 a long, long time ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to wish condolences and for my part of this show tonight, I want to dedicate
to
the memory of a former teammate, a very, very good friend of mine, Keith Welch, a former Crowville Bulldog, the guy that carried the number 21 before I did. He passed away today. I just found out literally 2 minutes before airtime. Brother, fly to the angels. I love you. My heart's with you, brother. You and your family. I want to dedicate the show tonight to Keith Welch. Alan.
Yeah, on that somber note, let's get back a little bit to the draft and yes, absolutely. Listen, my comments on Davenport real quick, and then we'll move on to the third round pick. Yes, giving up 2 first rounders, move up. You gave up your first rounder this year to move up, and then you gave up your first rounder next year. Mike Detillier said it best: the 2 players you want to do that for are either quarterbacks or defensive ends or pass rushers. Because to win in this league, A, you need an elite quarterback, and B, you need a player that can put the other team's elite quarterback on his backside. And I think in this case with Davenport, you're making a jump on a guy who was a big fish in a small pond. It's not like this is a kid coming from Canada like David Onyemata or Akeem Hicks. This is just a guy who played at small level competition, but he has the skills. So I think his learning curve is a lot faster than an Onyemata, than an Akeem Hicks. You've got somebody who just needs some more tools in the toolbox to really become a dominant player, but he has the capability of doing that. That's a lot different than grabbing somebody who is really raw. I think if we would have traded up for Bradley Chubb, people wouldn't be questioning this move nearly as much as they are for Davenport, just because Davenport went to a directional school like UT San Antonio. And I think that's the thing that really has people nervous about this move. But I think he's going to not only have an impact, but he's going to be a starter a lot quicker than people expect. And I think you're going to see a lot of positive growth, especially at the end of the season, once he's got his feet under him. In that November, December, when you're making that playoff push, I think that's when you're going to see Davenport really make that leap. And you're like, thank God we got somebody who can take the pressure off of Cam. And that's the good thing.
Anyway, you remember right before the draft, he said, we want a pressure player. Well, buddy, that's your pressure player right there. Trust me. So,
absolutely.
Look, just before you slip over to Traquan, you mentioned Mike Detillier. I got his draft guide, right? Literally in my hand. I know you guys don't have me on video.
There's mine.
There you go. There you go. Well, look, you can read along with me. I'm going to read the last paragraph of Mike Detillier on Marcus Davenport, which says, interesting athlete with tremendous gifts to play the defensive end spot in the pros, but he must get some patient coaching. So obviously Ryan Nielsen will have a hand in that, and develop his overall skill set to reach his maximum potential. So he has not been super productive in the college ranks. So you are drafting him on quote unquote potential, and on top of the top, or it says the rung, top of the rung athletic gifts. But man, and you can imagine Mike Detillier's voice when he's saying it, when he spells it out. But man, can he rush the quarterback?
That's it.
Hey, we'll see.
And he's a three down player. He's a 3-down player.
Absolutely. Look,
which is different from Harold Landry. He's different.
You're basically getting almost. I don't want to make the comparison to Cam himself, but you're potentially putting 2 elite talents on opposite edges of the line, and if that happens, watch out. And look, everybody forgets about Rankins. And I saw somebody. I got this was on Twitter over the weekend too. There's one follower I have that just hates Sheldon Rankins apparently, and I thought he had a very, very solid year last year. I think losing Nick Fairley maybe. And I think Nick was actually a kind of believe it or not, Nick Fairley, of all people, was a good mentor for Sheldon Rankins in that first year when Sheldon Rankins was a rookie. And I think he learned a lot from Nick Fairley, believe it or not. But Rankins is a very underrated player to me. I'm not saying he's going to be, they always made the Aaron Donald comparison to when Rankins came out. He might not be on on Aaron Donald's or caliber or that quite at that level of play, but man, he's still pretty good. And what I think they're missing, Alan, they still need that guy where Fairley was at. They need that one more interior rusher, I think. One more guy to rush up to gut, so to speak. And which was why, and we'll get to it in a minute when we get to the Rick Leonard pick, which is why I wanted them to go nose tackle at that Leonard pick, because you had a guy like Tim Settle from Virginia Tech. And we'll get into that in a minute, but I think that's what they're going to be lacking still, is that one guy in the middle that can push that pocket right up the middle. As soon as that ball is snapped, bam, you just nail the center and basically bull rush the center and collapse the pocket that way. But man, if you got two guys now coming off the edge, that certainly is going to make a big difference.
Well, and one of the things I was going to talk about, Tim Settle went right before the Saints picked in the 5th round. So that
man, look, I was going crazy. 4th round, when the 4th round opened, Ian Thomas, the tight end from Indiana, was right there, and Carolina first pick right in the round took him immediately off the board. So nobody asked Sean at the press conference, but if I would have, if they ever give me a press pass one day, if I was at the press conference, the first thing I would ask Sean Payton is, if Ian Thomas was still on the board, would you have taken him at that spot? Because to me, he was the last remaining tight end that you could say, I don't want to say elite caliber, because none of the tight ends were elite, but although Gesicki and Goddard are pretty close. But Ian Thomas was the last tight end that you thought to yourself, he would be perfect for the Saints offense. He would be perfect fit for the Saints offense. And that pretty much snagged him. So
that pretty much
was the end of the tight end.
That pretty much takes the third round.
I like the two UDFA tight ends. We'll get into that later. But hey, man, again, I like the Davenport pick, and let's see what happens. Let the chips fall where they may, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I think that's what happened when you got to the 3rd round. That's why I took Tyquan Smith, because you saw the two tight ends, the top two tight ends, go off in the 2nd round with Goddard and Gesicki, and then you had in the third round you had a shot at Mark Andrews, and then he went. Baltimore taking two tight ends, going really kind of threw off what the Saints were planning on doing in the 3rd round. So they're going to try. Yeah, they're going to try and make up. And this is something I said also in my column. The Saints are going to try and make up for that loss of a tight end with a four wide receiver set. And I think you've got with Smith, Thomas, Ginn, and Meredith, you've got a better foursome there than you had last year with Thomas, Ginn, Snead, and Coleman. So that's where you're going to see they're going to make up that 3rd down conversion percentage there. And then you throw in an aging Watson, and I think Fleener now stays. You have Fleener come in with Watson and Fleener, and that's going to be really your passing offense now. And so in this case, Smith makes the best sense. Smith offers you a dimension of speed as well as size. He is going
rare combination.
Yeah, he's going to be that 2000 2008, 2009 era, maybe, if everything falls just right.
Yeah.
Of a Robert Meacham.
Ever
You know. No, I think you still.
Well, yeah. Well, to say, cause
yeah, you gonna see more.
Well, yeah, Devery wasn't as fast as Meacham. Meacham was a lot faster, but yeah. Devery actually was a. I want to say 2006, maybe. He was kind of a deep threat.
Yeah.
But,
you're gonna see him.
But then when Meacham came in, Meacham kind of took over.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of those.
But yeah, exactly. But you're right. To fill that deep ball or the home run threat or however whatever terminology you want to use, and man, what I like about this kid, and I wrote the article on him this morning. As you said, Alan, it's the size. Yeah, man, a guy that size that can run 4.49, that's impressive. so he can fly for a big guy. So
exactly.
And contort. I mean, he can contort his body and twist and turn and make all these crap. I mean, he's the total package. The only thing with him is he's going to have to get better with his hand-eye coordination. He's had a major issue with drops, and then he just needs to refine his techniques. He needs a little polish up on the route running and stuff like that. But Curtis Johnson, that's his forte, man. That's right up his alley. And again, one of the greatest things that you got to love about the Saints organization right now is the assistant coaches, man. They got some dynamite coaching staff. You got Mike Nolan, who to me is the best linebackers coach in the NFL. I mean, you find me a better linebackers coach right now in the NFL. I mean, Ken Norton, maybe, I don't know, Ken Norton Jr. or whoever. But to me, or maybe Vrabel, now he's the head coach with Titans now. But find me a better guy coaching linebackers than Mike Nolan. Find me a better defensive line coach right now than Ryan Nielsen. Find me a better DB coach right now than Aaron Glenn. I mean, as bad as Sean's staff was a few years ago when we wanted to hang Buddy Ryan from the nearest tree, I mean, I'm starting out Buddy Ryan. Rex Ryan.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're all from the same tree.
Yeah, they're all the same. But so and look, who was that? Bill Johnson and Joe Vick. I mean, we wanted to run the whole staff out of town, and here we are 2 or 3 years later, and we're praising them. So give Sean credit, man. Look, they have take credit. One thing I like about this organization is that they take criticism to heart. Because they got bloggers, writing stuff bad about them like me. I'm sure but give them credit. They take it to heart. They don't just ignore it and say, "Oh, well, they're not the Cleveland Browns," and just ignore it and just keep making bad decisions after bad decisions. They took it to heart. He basically scrapped his entire coaching staff and got all new guys in there, and man, quality guys. Again, Mike Nolan, Ryan Nielsen, Aaron Glenn. So, and then hiring Jeff Ireland, man, it's just a phenomenal thing. So, but again, I know we got off track, but the Traquan Smith pick it just falls right into that philosophy, Alan. And to your point, it just falls right into that philosophy. I think you could look at this draft in two ways. There were some players that were the BPA or the quote-unquote best player available, and then there were picks that were quote-unquote their kind of picks, and that would be the Davenport pick, and obviously the Rick Leonard pick.
Absolutely. All right, Sean. What?
What's your thoughts on Traquan?
I think the Traquan pick was not a reach nearly so much as what a lot of people would have you believe in all of the fan forums. He's a solid quality receiver. He's going to have to step his game up to get to the next level. But that's not unusual for any player coming from the NCAA moving into the NFL. Barry, what I would be more interested in would be your thoughts on what I consider and I acknowledge as being a local product here, 30 miles up the street here from me. The pick of Boston Scott as running back.
Yes, a very underrated pick. And look, I think the Boston Scott pick does two things. First thing it does is it gives you think back to that Thursday night game when Kamara got the concussion. Mm-hmm. And what happened to the Saints offense when Kamara went out? Remember that? Well, that's why Boston Scott got picked, because you need a guy with a similar skill set to Kamara. So you can give him a breather, or God forbid, like he did in that Thursday night game at Atlanta last year, if he gets hurt, you need a guy that you could plug in there with a similar skill set. And they didn't have that when Kamara went out. Mark Ingram and nobody else. And what did Atlanta do? They just geared up to stop the run, and Ingram pretty much got stuffed. I mean, he had a couple of nice runs here and there, but it was pretty much Mark Ingram, and that was it. So Boston Scott's going to give you a guy that that you can bring in to give Kamara a breather. And then the second aspect of Boston Scott is, I could be wrong about this. I'm speculating because it's May 1st and not September 1st, but I think that Boston Scott's going to want to be a designated kick returner. And I could be wrong about that, but I got a feel they're going to at least give him a shot in camp and preseason and see what he can do. Obviously, he returned kicks at Louisiana Tech, so will he become the quote unquote designated kick returner? That's that I guess that'll play out in camp. But if he has Darren's very you saw him, you see him a lot more than we have, Sean. I know for a fact you've seen him a lot more than I have. Does he remind you of Darren's Bros? Is that a good comparison?
Some yes, but overall I would say no, because the only knock that I have on Boston Scott is his size. 200 pounds is not going to intimidate anyone going up the middle as a running back in the NFL. But as I've said several times on this program, and Alan and Barry both, I lump you guys into the same category as what I'm putting myself in. We've followed this game for 30, 40 plus years now. So I have a very good library of reference. Scott, I have never, the last player, I'll put it this way, and people will think I'm being dramatic, but I'm being dreadfully serious. The last player that I saw that ran with the agility, with the instantaneous change of direction, without losing speed, without losing momentum, the last person that I saw that to do that was Barry Sanders. Now he's not ever going to be confused with Barry Sanders because he doesn't have Barry Sanders' size. And make no mistake about it, in my humble opinion, Boston Scott was drafted to the New Orleans Saints to be a special teams contributor. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination he was brought in to compete with Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, Edmonds. I don't think that. Now, am I saying that he will not eventually have the opportunity to compete for that position? No, I'm not going to say that either. I believe that more than all, Lee Lewis had his shot, and Sean Payton by turnovers in the return game in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You may get one pass, you fumble one time, okay. You're on notice the next time you do it.
You're on the bench.
Deal's off. And he's not going to put up with that. And we saw not not last season, but the season prior, we saw what a dramatic effect the special teams can have on the final outcome of the season. When you look at, in all likelihood, 4 games of a 7-9 season, 4 of your losses were directly attributable to special teams snafus. Blocked kicks that were
extra point,
returned for extra point. Block kick that was returned to knock you out of it. Punt return that was returned for a touchdown. You know, one thing or another. You have to. You don't have to be dominant in every phase of the game, but you have to be competitive in every phase of the game. And I think that that's what Boston Scott was drafted for. I really do.
Well, look, I want to say Pro Football Focus maybe had something about his elusiveness. So when you made a comparison to Barry Sanders, that was the immediate thing I thought of was that little tweet that Pro Football Focus put out about his elusiveness, and so I can see that comparison in that regard. And like you said, if he was bigger, then you could think of him. You know, you'd probably think of him more. You know, the Barry Sanders comparison would really be something if he was a little bit bigger, because then you'd say, "Wow, you know, maybe we'll trade Mark Ingram if we got the next Barry Sanders." But hey, look, man, I like that pick. But we kind of skipped a few picks, so we better let Alan get back to Jamerson and my future favorite Saints player, Rick Leonard.
Well, let's go with Rick Leonard right now, because the other 2 guys, I mean, they're basically going to bring those guys in, and this is the thing about this draft.
Yeah, backup.
Last year you had 5 picks in the first 76 selections. This year you only had 1 in the first 90. You know, 2 if you want to count 91 being Smith in the top 100. So you're not going to get a lot of starter quality. You're not going to get a lot of starter quality kind of players. Your 2 starters are going to be Davenport and Smith. Those are the guys who are going to see a lot of time as starters. So the rest of these guys are backups. So you start to look for that depth. So here we go in round 4. You go and take you kind of, this was, I thought, was a reach. Everyone feels it's a reach. I can understand the mentality behind it. The mentality is, I'm watching offensive tackles who can play both sides, left and right, go off the board.
Right.
Bam, 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 bam. If I take a defensive tackle like Tim Settle now, am I going to have a left tackle I can get in round 5? That, I'm sure, was the argument they had inside the Saints war room. And I think they panicked a little bit and made a panic pick, because they're like, well, if we take our left tackle now, our swing tackle now, chances are we will have a defensive tackle later on to get a shot at. And they almost did with Settle. I mean, the Redskins took him right in front of us. Yeah. So it was a gamble, but I think it was a mistake to take this guy in the 4th round. But it almost fits what we've seen the Saints do now in the past 3 drafts. 4th round in 2016 is David Onyemata from Canada. Well, they didn't have a 4th round pick last year, but in the 6th round, they take Muhammad, and I'm not even going to attempt to say his, who only played, thank you, who only played 1 year of college football, very, very raw pass rusher. So they seem willing to take gambles on raw, undeveloped players in the day 3.
It pays off in spades for them sometimes. So I get the philosophy. It's just again, to your point, they just missettled the pick before, but there were some other guys there that I liked. Gennard Avery, the linebacker from Memphis.
Yeah,
man, they picked him and stuck him back there with Anzalone and AJ Klein and Demario Davis now coming off on the Sam. Oh my God! So there's a couple. All I'm saying, and again, it's easy to be. Look, it's easy to say hindsight is 2020, and it's easy to criticize. But again, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. I wasn't trying to be overly critical and say, oh, there's a horrible. I think it got taken a little bit out of context. And you saw the tweet that I put out Sunday, and I intentionally put the tweet out just to get a bunch of debate going, but. Because I thought it was just an interesting observation. Who else was on the board when they made this pick? And like I said, and I can rattle off the names, but man, you would have took a Gernard Avery right there and put him in that linebacker core.
Hell, if you take Will Clapp, who was graded a 4th or 5th rounder, you take Will Clapp in the 4th round, and you take Leonard in the 7th. And everyone's like, okay, I can deal with that.
Yes, exactly right. And I put that in my and Alan, I'm sure you read it. That's exactly what I said. Is that I gave this draft because I know everybody hates these instant grades. It's my job. I do it every year. Every single year, I put out an instant grade. So don't get mad and say I hate when fans overreact and well, you shouldn't be grading them. Well, that's kind of what we do. I wouldn't be doing this every morning or every day if that wasn't part of it. Comes with the territory. But I gave them a C+, and literally, the only reason I gave them from a B to a C was because of the Leonard pick. And exactly to your point, Alan, if you would have put Clapp in the 4th in that spot and put Leonard in the 7th round, nobody would say nothing. There'd be no debate whatsoever. You'd give that draft a B-, maybe even a B+, and we wouldn't even be talking about it. So I totally agree with you there. We were in complete agreement. But look, again to your point, they panicked. But one other thing I'll add, and then we'll move on. They see something in that kid. I don't know what it is because I saw where he gave up 5 sacks, he gave up 17 quarterback pressures and all this stuff. So they're obviously in love with his potential. There's something about that kid, Dan Rauscher, the offensive line coach. I don't know if he had something to do with the pick. If he went down to Florida and saw the kid work out, or there's something about that kid that they like. I don't know what it is, and maybe we'll find out as we progress into the off season and camp and all the preseason. I'm sure we'll hear all the stories, and I'll be writing one of them, I'm sure. But there's something about, and I'll probably be writing about it tomorrow morning, actually. And maybe I'll link this podcast in my article. But there's something about that kid that they love. They're in love with. They're in love with him. I don't know what it is. All I can say is whatever it is. I hope they nail it. I hope that kid becomes an all-pro right tackle. But he could also become a human turnstile and get run over.
That's right.
So
that's right.
We'll find out.
That's right.
We'll find out.
The other two guys that we didn't really talk about were the 2 defensive backs. You've got what? Oh hell! I just had him a second ago. Yeah, Jameson and the kid from Boston College. Thank you.
Cameron Moore.
You've got both of those guys. Well, I was going to say both of those guys. You've got them really competing against Arthur Millette, who we had on last week, and you've got him competing against P.J. Williams. And I think it's really putting P.J. Williams on notice that he needs to take that next step.
We could put together a GoFundMe account to replace PJ Williams, and I think we could get a groundswell of support to sign this drafted rookie.
Well, and and the other one you have, I hate to bring up this guy's name, but Devontae Harris is still on the roster. He was signed to a futures contract, so again. You're pushing.
No, you misread. He's on the rooster.
Yeah, I got you. But yeah, I mean, that's really what you're seeing. They're throwing all these defensive backs into the mix, and hey, let's see what shakes out. Let's see where we go with this. The fact that You've got one that can play center and safety and corner. Really kind of gives them flexibility. And you're talking about special teams guys. You want to improve your speed on special teams. That's where these guys come in, and Boston Scott fills that role as well. Let's see if he can become a kick returner and see what goes on with that. So that's really what you see in that group. Now with Clapp, I posted this on draft day because when we drafted this guy Clapp is a graduate at Brother Martin, class of 2014. Yep. My son is a graduate of Brother Martin, class of 2014. So, we are.
Damn, you're old.
I know. I have now officially reached the age that I'm old enough to be the dad of several Saints players on this roster now. So yeah.
Well, just for the record, my son in freshman ball competed against Boston Scott of Zachary when he played at West Monroe.
Yeah.
So we're in the same boat once again.
So we got, I think there's a lot of potential. I think Clapp, he's got the potential to play center, backup, Unger, but also he can play that guard position, so he can fill that Clemente role. We just have to see what's his learning curve. How does he have to put on more strength? Does he have to put on more, bulk? Is he ready to play in the NFL level? Now, granted, he played with LSU. He faced Alabama. He faced top-notch elite competition as an offensive lineman. He was a starter for 4 years. So, you really, for the seventh round, you really got a good steal out of a player who's ready to start. And I think in that regard, his learning curve is far, far less than a guy like Leonard, who we were talking about earlier. Sean, let's talk about the quarterback. The big news today.
Drew Brees is still a New Orleans Saints quarterback.
Yes. Well, J.T. Bartlett was
Barrett.
Barrett's. I don't know why I keep wanting to give him a literature name. Like I'm teaching English class, but J.T. Barrett. And I knew that. I'm looking at the name right now on my screen. And I still said J.T. Bartlett.
That doesn't speak well for your advanced age, brother.
I am telling you. Okay, so J.T. Barrett is signed by the Saints. Now,
all things considered, to be totally honest with you, and I'm shooting from the hip here, this is not something that I've prepared or gave long hours of thoughtful discourse to. Strictly from the hip, so to speak, I would take Barrett over. I would Lamar Jackson.
Now you're being a hater. Now you're being a hater.
No, I'm not. J.T. Barrett is a more accomplished and accurate passer from the pocket than Lamar Jackson was.
Yeah.
Now that is with the caveat that J.T. Barrett had more tools to work with, more protection in front of him than Lamar Jackson had at Louisville, and I will allow that. Lamar Jackson is an incredible athlete. I will take absolutely nothing away from that whatsoever. But as Alan, you and I, and Barry, you and I discussed this a little bit last night as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The most common misconception when it comes to the NFL draft is that the NFL draft is about the best player, and it's not. It never has been. When it comes to the NFL draft, when you break it down into respect of each team, it's not about the best player. It's about the right player. The right player in the right time, with the right coach, with the right team, with the right organization. Mm-hmm. It's never about who is the best player. It's who is the right player. And in
Right.
my opinion, as good as fantastic as Lamar Jackson is as an athlete, as a quarterback, la-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da, ad nauseum, he is not the right quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, because as long as Drew Brees stays healthy and Lamar Jackson's holding a clipboard and wearing a cap, that's all fine and good. But when Lamar Jackson is thrust into that opportunity that he so desires to be the starting quarterback, you're going to have to transform your entire offense.
Yeah, well, we're going to see how that works out, because it looks to me like the Ravens are ready to run Flacco right out of town. So, he's going to get a shot. We'll see what happens. God bless him. I hope it works out for him. But to me, the only and Alan alluded to it right when you guys came on the air, or right when I finally learned how to work Google Hangouts and join you guys, which was, he alluded to the fact that Baker Mayfield would have been the only quarterback probably that the Saints would have traded up for, and Cleveland took that right out of the equation. So
Cleveland solved that problem right out the box.
Yeah, right. They took that option right off the table immediately. But and I saw something this morning, I believe it was, that said that several teams had Baker Mayfield as their number one quarterback in the draft. Period. Yeah. Several teams, not just Cleveland.
You can make character. You can make character concerns as big an issue as you want, but when it comes right down to it, the bottom line is always, in the National Football League, the bottom line is always going to be dollars and cents. If this player was Adolf Hitler, but he could translate across the board to 3 wins more a season, and you're looking at a 7-9 record, they would draft him in a heartbeat. It's nasty to think about, and it makes you feel dirty. You want to take a shower when you think that thought, but it's reality. It's all about the dollars and cents. And, if you think anything more or less than that, you're deluding yourself. If that player can translate into more wins to put that team in a better position to compete for that Lombardi trophy, it doesn't matter if he is a homicidal maniac. They're going to draft him, and more than that, they're going to employ him. Look at the Dallas Cowboys.
Did
I say that out loud?
Well, you're really firing up the Colin Kaepernick people right now with these comments.
Don't let me get started on that.
I'm just telling you, these things you're saying is just really firing those guys up right now.
And listen, just for the record, I would like to add that J.T. Barrett had a better completion percentage in college than Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Mason Rudolph, and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Here's the thing with Barrett.
In today's vernacular, I'm just saying.
Well, here's the thing with Barrett. When you bring in a guy like Barrett, you're bringing him as an undrafted free agent, so the pressure to make him work in your system is off, because this is a freebie. You're playing with house money, essentially. You've got a kid that you have in your house right now, where you have time to work with him for 2, 3, 4 years, if necessary, to work on his weaknesses and developing him into an NFL quarterback. If you took a guy in the first round in today's NFL, you have to play him within the first couple of years, because he hits that option year, okay? He hits that option year in that 5th year. You don't have time to find out, okay, in year 3, I might try and start him. In year 4, he might start to develop. I have to make that decision right now. Is this a 1-year wonder, or is this a guy I'm going to commit to long term? Whereas with an undrafted free agent, you have the restricted period, you have the restricted undrafted free agent, then you have the where he actually enters the free agent market. You buy yourself more time, and it doesn't cost you nearly as much. So,
Alan, I'm sorry to interrupt and to put you on the spot. What was the length of the deal that we signed with Savage? Do you have that information handy?
I can pull it up right now. I know with Barrett, we signed him to a 3-year deal.
Yeah,
so,
Barrett was a 3-year deal. I was just curious as compared to what we signed Savage for.
He is a 1-year deal.
I can envision a scenario.
It's a 1-year deal.
I can envision a scenario where you, what is it?
It's a 1-year deal. It's just for this year, 2018.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So yeah, look, there's a scenario. There's a scenario that I can envision where we get into that 4th preseason game and the final cuts come down and your backups behind Breeze going into the regular season are Taysom Hill and JT Barrett, and Tom Savage is looking for a job.
Hey,
that's right, because we traded Willie Snead. That was our emergency backup.
Yeah, look, I'm telling you, Tom Savage is very underwhelming to me. I thought it was or not great, but as good as I thought their free agency class was this year. The one signing that I thought was you talk about Rick Leonard being a head scratcher in the draft. In free agency, the head scratcher was Tom Savage. Because I was like, of all the quarterbacks you could sign, why Tom Savage? He's horrendous. He had one good year at Pitt as a senior, and he's made an NFL career. He's made an NFL career off of one good senior year at Pitt. I mean, that's it. So, I don't mean to cannon for all, but he's a below average quarterback.
I don't mean to contradict you. I think that Savage, when it comes to quarterbacks, and I get this from basically from following the career of Doug Peterson, the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, who graduated college right here at University of Louisiana Monroe. Go Hawks!
No comment.
I do that for Alan's benefit, and we'll talk about that later. But there's when it comes to professional quarterbacks, there's basically 2 tiers. You have your franchise guys, which are going to be your Goff, your Wentz, your and what y'all go ahead and address your email to me, your hate mail, Baker Mayfield. You have that level guy, and then you're gonna have the guys that are gonna basically resign themselves to carrying a clipboard for the rest of their lives. Your
Chase Daniel.
Chase Daniel, excellent example. And Savage as
my favorite of all time, Dan White.
Well, he was a hell of a punter.
And a decent backup, because when Staubach retired, I remember he actually was the transition quarterback for the Cowboys, I believe, for what, 2 or 3 seasons, Alan?
Yeah.
So but
what kind of quarterback was Danny White? He was a hell of a punter.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Here's the thing with Savage. I think they took him because there wasn't a whole hell of a lot to pick from as far as a veteran back.
Yeah, it was pretty slim. Yeah, it was pretty slim.
And I'm not making predictions.
The best.
I was gonna say I'm not making any predictions of who's going to be in the final quarterback group. But it is very possible the veteran quarterback that's going to back up Drew isn't on the roster yet. That somebody who gets cut or somebody who gets traded later on who will be a backup guy.
We could run this about the quarterback fit.
We could make a run at smoking Jay Cutler.
Wrapping it up soon, but
oh God!
Oh Lord, don't say that. But here's what I think about the quarterbacks, just in a nutshell. I don't think that the successor to Drew Brees is on the roster right now.
No,
I see a bunch of people on Facebook dancing the second lining in the streets in New Orleans because they think JT Barrett is the future quarterback of the Saints.
Yeah.
No way. Look.
Not a chance in hell.
I like the kid. Yeah. I will be dead in my grave 20 years before J.T. Barrett ever has a shot to be the next franchise quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. It ain't happening. It ain't happening with Taysom Hill. I love
Barry,
Taysom Hill as an athlete, but he's not going to be the next franchise quarterback.
Well, Barry, you, as both I and Alan have made no secret of, we've been basically lifelong followers of this team, and not just with a casual interest. You and I believe that I'm not too far off the mark to say that you would probably feel the same way that we do, in that, well, first and foremost, there's never going to be another Drew Brees for the New Orleans Saints. No. So all these people that are sitting back, entertaining the fantasy that we're sitting in the war room on draft day looking for the next Drew Brees, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not happening. Well, they proved it this year.
And chances are better than not that between your Drew Brees and your next, and I'm being liberal here, your next franchise guy, there's going to be this one, probably through progression of 3 to 4, maybe 5 transitional guys that get you a season, 2 seasons, another season, maybe 3 seasons after that. The expectation that we're looking for the next Drew Brees is beyond a fantasy. And every opportunity that I get, I try to tell Saints fans that living in that expectation is just not very realistic.
No, not at all. And if you want to go back through Saints history and look how long it took them to go from, if you consider Bobby Hebert was a franchise quarterback, I don't know if you want to put him in that caliber, but for the sake of this particular argument, okay, look how long it took them to go from one franchise quarterback, Bobby Hebert, to the next one, which is Drew Brees. Because I'm sorry, I'm not putting Aaron Brooks in the franchise quarterback category. I'm sorry, I'm not.
Ralph Marlboro disagrees,
he had a couple. Before I get all the Aaron Brooks fans in my grill again, like I did a couple of years ago when I put out that article about the worst quarterbacks in Saints history, and half the internet collapsed because I made fun of Aaron Brooks laughing on the sidelines, which he did, and threw a backwards pass. But so what? From Hebert, what was Hebert's last year? What, 93? 92, 93?
93.
So you went
92 was his last.
Yeah, 93. 92, yeah, because for that Philadelphia playoff game.
After the Philadelphia playoff game, correct.
Yeah, I was there too, Alan, so I feel your pain. So we're talking, what, a span of 14 years? So it took them 14 years to go from one franchise to finally find their next quote-unquote franchise quarterback. So, Sean, great point, because it might take another 14 years.
Sure.
After Brees retires, to find the next one. There's no guarantees. There are zero guarantees. So.
But I think the biggest point to remember right now is that with adding a Cam Jordan, he's not a spring chicken anymore in NFL terms, but he's still got
no, he's in his prime.
High level. Yeah.
Barring injury, he has a lengthy career to look at. By adding Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, so on and so forth. By adding all these pieces, you're putting this team in a position where you don't have to have a future Hall. Your quarterback doesn't have to be introduced as future Hall of Famer Drew Brees. You can have a game manager and still win ball games. I think that's what people miss by looking at the draft now. They look for all these home runs. They're looking for every pick to be a Marshawn Lattimore or an Alvin Kamara, and they don't look at the big picture.
It's not going to happen.
Yep. Well, hell, like I was getting ready to say a minute ago, I've been waiting 25 years for the next Ricky Jackson. So, I'm still waiting.
Hey,
yeah, look.
We had the time and the opportunity to bring the next Pat Swilling in.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, it's already 9:30. We're way over time. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Yeah,
Alan, I'd just give you one thing. Let's give you one thing before you guys wrap up. I was just sent this tweet from a follower on Twitter. Lance Zierlein, NFL.com, ranked his. We were just talking about draft grades. New Orleans Saints, number 32 overall, the worst draft in the NFL this year. And Lance Zierlein says, clearly, I wasn't a huge fan of what the Saints did this year after really loving their draft last season. Trading a future first-rounder for Davenport seems very risky to me because he still needs plenty of development. Trading future first-rounders is something you do for guys like Deshaun Watson, not a defensive end in the middle of the first round. Teams seem to be split on their opinions of Traquan Smith, whom the Saints added in the third round. But I was very surprised to see the Saints add Leonard in round 4, given that he's such a project at this juncture and will need time to develop. Final ranking, number 32 overall. So there you go.
Wow.
So not everybody's a fan, but
I guess it probably wouldn't behoove us to send him season ticket information. Then,
well, I like how he throws Deshaun Watson in there, who, if I remember right, didn't Texans pick him in a second or third rounder? I'm not sure. It wasn't a first rounder, so yeah,
I forget what it was, but well, that was a poor it was a very poor analogy, but it just goes to show you the disconnect between the people that cut the Nick Underhills, the John Hendricks, the Alan Ulriches, and the people that are covering the Saints on a daily basis, and the guys up in New York and out in LA who have zero clue of the philosophy of this franchise. They think they know, but what was that, Alan? Who was that? Jim Mard used to say, "You think you know, but you really
don't know." Yeah.
And that's what's going on here.
And that's
you guys
have one perception, and we have the other perception.
Yeah.
You guys think about it. A year ago today, all defending the Maryland Hendricks. We were defending that draft because people said, I can't believe we spent draft picks on a bunch of guys that are always hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And all that did was yield the future offensive and defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, I reposted some of the comments.
Anybody that put in these immediate draft ratings, draft stuff like that, they're idiots.
Yeah. I mean, they know just as much as we do, because you don't know what happens once these guys get on the field and start playing.
It's May 1st. It's May 1st. These guys haven't even put on the pad. They haven't got into the sweltering, oppressive humidity of New Orleans in August, as Alan can attest to. Let's just hold. And look, I know I sound like a hypocrite because I just wrote the article 3 days ago. But that's my job. I do it because that's what I get paid to do. But look, let's make no mistake about it. These are all kids. They're kids. Mm-hmm. Alan, you just said you're old enough to be their dad. Right? I'm old enough to be your grandpa, dang near. So, look, let's give them a chance. Let's wait till the pads go on. Yes, I am. No, I'll be 51 in October, which is old enough. But I have.
You and I.
Look, I didn't even tell you guys. I didn't even tell you guys I'm about to be a grandfather for the third time. So.
Oh, well,
you'll
congratulations
have to with me.
Yeah,
I am 50.
So I'm going to have a grandson, actually.
I am 50, and I have 4 grandchildren.
Oh, my God.
There you go. So
I don't want to hear that.
Alan, your turn is coming.
I don't want to hear that.
Your turn is coming, Alan.
Matt's going to kick that door open one day and say, Dad, guess what?
All I can say is, if that ever happens, get your affairs in order, because the second coming is coming. So
Matt
just passed out somewhere.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Alan, you can't avoid it. It's coming, brother.
Oh man. Okay.
Grandkids are
Good God, no.
Send them back home with your kids.
Good God, no.
To punish both.
All right, here we go.
Barry, how can everybody follow you, brother?
You can follow me on Twitter at Barry Hirstius. It's spelled, last name is spelled Hirstius, pronounced Hirstius. And you can find my work at saintsnewsnetwork.com.
Good deal. All right, Barry. Well, thank you, man, for joining us. Sorry, we had some technical problems.
Guys,
we went overtime as usual.
I love you guys, and yes, yeah, I know. But look, I love you guys, and I would be honored to come back anytime. You guys, you got my number now, and
absolutely.
Of course, you guys can talk to me on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. But I love you guys' work, and again, I'm honored and privileged that you have me on. And I don't know if Sean's dipped you to the conversation, Alan, that him and I had last night. But if he hasn't, he'll tell you about it. And I love you guys, and of course, me and Alan grew up basically right down the highway from each other and didn't even realize it.
Sure did.
That's right. Again, look, man, I love covering this. This is a passion of mine, as Sean and I discussed last night. And for all the chutzpah, or whatever terminology you want to use, for all the huffing and puffing that I do, just know that it's done out of love and passion for this football team in this city and my hometown. And look, man, there's nothing I love more in life itself, other than my grandkids and my wife. The only other thing I love more is probably the New Orleans Saints. So there you go.
There you go. Well, thank you, Barry. Thank you for joining us once again. All right, Sean.
I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Barry. All right, man.
Thanks, Barry. All righty. So we have rookie mini camp in about 2 weeks, and we've got regular mini camp, which I believe is the first weekend of June. So a month from now is the Saints.
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to verify this date.
Yeah, the Saints
in the coming week.
Yeah,
I'll have us an accurate schedule next week.
Yeah, I was looking up the mini camp. It's in 2 weeks. So yeah, it's not this weekend because Jazz Fest is this weekend. Sean Payton wants to go to Jazz Fest. But it'll be probably the following weekend. And then I think they start OTAs, and then at the end of the OTAs is the mini camp. So that's pretty much how the schedule is going to go. After mini camp, I think they take a 6-week break, and then they start up with regular training camp. So it's May 1st already.
Training camp at the team facility again, correct?
Yes, correct. So we're looking at
also known as Hell on Earth.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I've been on. Hell is better than airline drive in August.
Well, yeah, it is not pleasant to sit out there in that heat, and I feel bad when I see people walking up with black jerseys like this one, and going out and sitting in that heat in August. That's just insane. That's when you sit there and go, thank God we play in a dome. People want to play in that retractable roof and all that other stuff. That's great in November and December in New Orleans. But August, September, even October, no. You don't want to kick a noon kickoff in August outdoors. It is not fun. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being patient with us. We'll talk more about some of the undrafted guys, and I'll tell you the story of Walter Thomas in 2007, talking about these undrafted free agents and the excitement that builds up. JT Barrett is definitely one of these guys that's drumming up all kinds of excitement. I will tell you the story about Walter Thomas in the days before Facebook. When Sean Payton brought this guy in, and I was on saintsreport.com, and we pretty much had him by, I think he was signed on Monday, and by Friday, some Saints fans had him in Canton, Ohio. And I'll tell you the story about how this guy ended up for the Saints. So,
to quote Ron White, how'd that turn out? Not good.
You were drunk in public. No, I was drunk.
Public.
These people threw me in public. Yes. All righty. Thank you guys for joining us. And that's
when a New Orleans Saints podcast begins to quote Ron White, things have gone terribly awry.
Hey man, I'll tell you the story about the tire falling off his van. It's Sears. That's one of my favorite routines. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. We will see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.
We love you guys, man. Thank you so much for joining us.